Virginians pushing back on this culture that wants us to shelve hope, that tells our children they have to accept low standards. This culture that tells us that we, in fact, can't dream big dreams. No. This is a moment for Virginians to push back on this left, liberal, progressive agenda and take our Commonwealth back.
What bothers me to my core is what this man is doing. He's dividing parents against parents, parents against school boards. He's using your children as political pawns in his campaign. It is a racist dog whistle. Folks, we are better than that.
Yes, we are.
We will not have that hatred here in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
The candidates for Virginia governor making a final push on election eve. This race between Terry McAuliffe and Glenn Youngkin is widely seen as a referendum on the Biden presidency and a harbinger of things to come in the midterms, perhaps. It's a great night to have back with us Jason Johnson, a campaign veteran, journalist, contributor to the GRIO, professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State, and Michael Steele, former chairman of the Republican National Committee, former lieutenant governor of the great state of Maryland, also happens to be the host of the Michael Steele podcast. Michael, I'd like to begin with you. What do you make of how these two candidates have run their campaigns? Has McAuliffe committed any malpractice, or has he just fallen victim to the current sway of things?
No, I think less falling victim and more an overcalculation, maybe some would say miscalculation, to nationalize this election in a way that you did not see in New Jersey. You just spoke with the governor of New Jersey. Very different tone, very different context there around the issues that were a little bit closer to home. And I think McAuliffe tried to do that, but then stepped on it on that education piece, if you will, when he, made the statement in the debate about, I don't want parents shouldn't be involved in what's going on in their kids' education. Now, context is everything, but voters didn't hear context. What they heard were the words, and their response to it was almost immediate, and he couldn't clean it up. And that's the more telling thing. And Youngkin very, very carefully and successfully navigated off of that national dialogue in such a way that he turned it and made it local. He made it personal. He made it about the school boards, about parents and their kids, and that's why that momentum has shifted, and why you see Youngkin in the position he is in right now.
So, Jason, let's talk a little modern era political science. I happened upon a photo this evening of 3 Democratic presidential candidates having a chat at the environmental summit in Scotland. 2 of the men in this picture were failed Democratic presidential candidates. 1 was victorious, but think about it. True blue Democrats would say the guy in the center of the picture lost to the U.S. Supreme Court. They would say the guy on the right lost to the first major public case of disinformation in the modern era, could not believe he was being taken down by it, and didn't effectively fight back. The guy on the far left, the only one of the 3 to get elected president as a Democrat, is just hanging on, down 11 points popularity. His Democratic candidate for governor of Virginia has blown a 5-point lead in 30 days. So you put all that together, Jason, is this the Republicans' best chance to win in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, Brian, because they're still operating off of old census information, and we've got a lot of problematic issues with this recent census. When the new numbers come out, it's going to be even harder for Republicans to win both local and statewide in the state of Virginia. Youngkin is riding a wave of being an individually rich guy and still being able to sort of hide the overt racism of these education issues to make himself competitive in this race. But I think when we look at Biden, it's important to take into consideration Joe Biden has accomplished things, right? I mean, he's got the vaccine rollout. He passed massive bills to sort of secure people's employment and funding and everything else like that. He has done some good things. He ended the war in Afghanistan. He doesn't even get credit for that. And that was just about 2 months ago. But the problem is Joe Biden has not been as aggressive on the things that the public cares about. The Democrats who voted him to office, he hasn't been as aggressive on police reform. He hasn't been as aggressive on voting rights. He appears to be letting Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema run the whole country. That is where people are frustrated and despondent. Remember, it's a year ago tomorrow that the guy beat Donald Trump. I mean, like he's dropped 11 points in a couple of years. So can it be improved? Yes, it can. But I do think it sort of drags down every other Democrat running across the country right now, because when they look to their leader in the White House, he doesn't appear to be handling things as successfully or aggressively as he seemed to run.
So, Michael, two hypotheticals. A, if Congress had passed both bills, if they were signed, done and dusted, and people started feeling deliverables, would this race be different? If Donald Trump had come to Richmond or Virginia Beach or Fairfax County and done his usual 2-hour outdoor riff on behalf of the candidate, would this race be different right now?
Yes to both of those. And in fact, that was kind of the environment Mr. McAuliffe was hoping for, to be honest. He was hoping that the Democrats in the House and Senate would get at least one of these legislative packages done, particularly the one where you had 19 Republicans sign off on the roads and bridges infrastructure bill. And the fact that they could not do that created the drag. And then on the other side, there were hopes and prayers and all kinds of, efforts made to sort of encourage Trump to sort of get into the race, if you will. But Trump showed an incredible amount of resistance to that. And I think a lot of folks would like to know what the secret sauce was on that. I think the good professor from Virginia laid that out in the earlier segment. And there's truth to that. It is amazing discipline that Trump did not inject himself. But here's the rub. Come Wednesday morning, he will. And when he does, he will take credit for this, for Youngkin's victory in a very big way, which still doesn't solve the longer term problem Republicans will have going into next year, that Trump will again misread the fact that he was not in the race and he was issued the Heisman, right, by Youngkin, just kind of stay away, that was the crux of the win, not anything that he did or said by his 2 or 3 endorsements.
Both of these gentlemen, thankfully, are going to stay with us. I'm going to fit a break in.